Guys, welcome back to the Last Diet podcast slash YouTube channel. Hope everyone is having a good start to their week, as always. Right, so guys, we're going to kick off this week's YouTube episode and podcast. As always, for those of you listening back on the podcast, definitely give the YouTube video a watch. If you even wanted to, you could watch the YouTube video as a podcast as you're walking, but then take a look at the screen whenever I'm kind of bringing up some of the visuals as well. So in today's episode, guys, I'm going to go through a few things. A few things happened over the last week. So we're through week 3 of the diet. So I'm going to do like a review of week 3. So I'm going to give you an update on how the week went, my targets, my ups and downs, the struggles, the food. After that, right, I'm going to actually give you, I'm going to give you a peek at my MyFitnessPal. So I'm going to take you through some of the foods I had on one of my higher calorie days and some of the food I had on one of my lower calorie days. So just to give you kind of an idea of what I'm eating at the moment and how I balance it out if I'm having kind of higher calorie days and lower calorie days around the soccer and stuff. Something happened in the soccer this week, so I'll be talking through that as well. I'm also going to give you kind of just a couple of food pictures that I've been eating, so you can actually visually see them as well as some of the meals that we've actually been having. And at the end as well, I'm just going to go through a small bit of mindset, right? So week 3 and 4 is kind of what I like to call like the messy middle. So it's the phase in the diet sometimes where you feel like you're in no man's land. You feel like you can feel a bit kind of smaller in yourself, but you don't feel like you've made an awful lot of progress in terms of body fat. So your body can just kind of start to feel like you're in the kind of that middle area where it's not clicking yet, right? But I want to talk through the mindset of that and why it's so important to trust in what you're doing and to kind of push past that as well. I'm going to give you some updates on my progress pictures and stuff like that as well. So strap in, guys. It's going to be a full episode, and so hopefully you're going to get something out of it. So let's get straight stuck in. I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to get straight into the data from the week, okay? So what we have first, guys, is basically just a review of how the week went and weight and stuff. So interesting this week with the weight. My weight average this week, the whole week, has basically been the exact same as last week. And the start of this week has even been a small bit higher. So I'm going to talk you through that in a second. So again, it's very, very important to just reiterate what I was talking about last week in terms of not getting obsessive about like 1 week or even a couple of weeks, and understanding what you need to do in order to keep things moving forward. Okay, because everyone's weight fluctuates at different rates, and if you can trust in it long enough, you will eventually see what you need to see as well. Okay, so let's go through a few things, right? So I started at a high weight last week after the match and stuff like that. Then I got hit kind of a lower weight, which was kind of similar to last week. And then over the course of Thursday to Sunday, the weight's kind of like stabilized and went up a little bit as well. So you can see with my calorie days, I had basically like 4 lower calorie days. So I had 2,000 calories, 2,100, 2,150. And then on Friday, I had 2,700 calories. So I'm going to go through that, guys. I had a game on Saturday. You might remember me talking about this last week where I didn't feel like I was fully fueled for the soccer game because I was eating higher calories on the day, but I think it was more important to do it the day before. So this week I tried doing a carb load the day before with higher calories as well. And I basically, I'm going to talk through how that went and some of the kind of the lessons from that. You can see my protein intake was pretty high, 150 or above for most days. And then my step count was very, very high for the whole week. Again, this was kind of like a lot of natural steps, but I was intentionally getting some more steps some days as well. A lot of the steps counted here again would be because of soccer training as well as the match. So some of that was actually included as well. And then I had my notes. I did 3 gym sessions this week. So I had 3 upper body kind of days and then 1 lower body rehab day as well. So that went quite well. It was my first week after, you might remember me last week saying I had a kind of recovery week. So this was my first week of the new plan where I was pushing it on again. And yeah, I felt really good. I actually felt really good in the gym this week. I was getting sore, I was getting pumps. I actually lowered the volume back down. So that's going to be ramping up now again over the next 3 or 4 weeks. So that is basically an update on how the actual week went in terms of targets. I would say the calories here are pretty accurate. Most of them were tracked relatively well. And the only day that was kind of a little bit off, I wouldn't say off, but it was just kind of eating out a little bit, was we went to the cinema on Friday night. So that was included in the 2,700 calories. So I had a medium popcorn in cinema, which came out to be, I think, 600 calories. This kind of was added to my carb load day the day before. Now, cinema popcorn isn't ideal for like carb loading because there's a lot of fat. You get a lot of carbs from the popcorn, which is good, but there's also a lot of fat. So you probably would benefit from like a lower fat, higher carb meal like throughout the day. But because we're going to cinema, I wanted to have a bit of flexibility. I had more calories, and I also hit a lot of carbs that day anyway, because I went to like 4,000 or 400 grams of carbs for the day. So it was actually fine. I can fit it in. Now again, ideally, if I was trying to optimize my performance, I probably could have went a little bit lower in the fats. But again, we're living life here. We're not professional athletes, so it's just finding that sweet spot. On Saturday then I had the match as well. So with the 2,400 calories, that was kind of planned because the match was earlier in the day. So I had like a lot of food in the morning, but then I kind of tapered it off throughout the evening. But as you can see in my notes, I actually went off in the match after 35 minutes because I got injured. It was really, really annoying because the week before, I got a bad kick in my leg and I bruised. And then this week coming in, it was still sore, but it was kind of like a bone bruising, but I could play through it. And literally, first couple of minutes, I got a bad tackle onto that leg, same leg again, so it started bleeding, and then it actually got very sore. And then about 10 minutes later, I played on, and the exact same thing happened again. Because it's my right leg, it's the leg I go in for like tackles with and stuff. It's always in the firing line. And then after that, I literally could hardly walk. I had to come off, and yeah, I was really annoyed because I was playing quite well at the start, and I actually felt really good with the carb loading and stuff. Now, until I got to later stages of the game, I wouldn't have actually known how I would have got on. But in general, I was feeling really good for the first 35 minutes. I was playing well, energy was high, so it would have been interesting to see how I would have fared for the full 90 if I had been on. But unfortunately, we'll never know. So I probably will be out of soccer for the next 2 weeks, I would say anyway. So I won't have to worry this week about carb loading. I'm just going to have a consistent week throughout the whole week this week. So I'm probably going to keep it pretty even. Probably going to be about 2,100 calories on average for the whole week, and it's going to be pretty stable as well. So just a couple of things that fed into my actually I'm going to show you. I'm just going to quickly show you my ankle. You probably saw it in my stories anyway, but this was my ankle after the game. So this part of the leg was actually bruised for the week before, and then I basically got 2 kicks here and on the day, and then my whole leg, my ankle swelled up and the bottom of my leg was bruised. I'm actually walking pretty okay for the last 2 days, which is mad. I didn't think I'd be able to walk for the week, so I've actually been able to get my steps in, but yeah, I don't think I'll be able to do any like intense sport for a while, maybe 2 weeks. So just to get onto the weight settings, guys, right? So onto my bodyweight tracker. Now you'll see here, right? I started at 75.5 on average for the first week. About my start weight was 76.6, right? And my low weight now is kind of roughly around 74. So big drop off first week, which usually happens when you start dieting first. Your weight's just going to drop a lot of water weight and stuff like that. Over the last 2 weeks, it's basically stagnated and it's gone up even a bit this week. I expect that this week is actually going to drop. So by the end of this week, it basically could be down here somewhere. But you can see the trend line is still on the way down. This is why we shouldn't panic and never panic when it comes to weight. A lot of the reasons my weight, and again, I know this because I know myself, but everyone can be a little bit different depending on what's going on. I actually have a client at the moment she's just got a lot going on internally, like with her body, hormones and different things, perimenopausal. So her weight is it's so hard to predict. It's just up and down all around. And she knows she's doing the right thing. So we have to really trust in what we're doing, the process of what we're doing, because otherwise she would just be very reactive and it would end up just her being inconsistent with her goals, right? So with me, the reason my weight is probably stagnated, gone up a small bit over the last week or so, it's more so to do with the fact that I've had some days with higher calories and higher carbs, which basically means that you're going to have more food volume in the stomach and you're going to have a lot of water retention around that. Because I carb loaded on Saturday or on Friday, and only played half the game not even half the game, 30 minutes on Saturday. I didn't even like do as much exercise as I expected. So my weight was bound to be up a little bit. If I had played more of the game, my weight might be down. And again, this is weight, not body fat, remember. We want to separate the two because body fat wise, trending downwards. I'm fine. I'm in a deficit. But it's just the weight is a bit all over the place. We've also started having a lot of, when I'm dieting kind of lower calories, I will have a lot of like high volume foods. A lot of the things we've been eating recently have been high volume. You probably saw the beef ramen in my stories as well. That's quite a high salt meal and a high volume meal. So very low calories, but it's quite voluminous, meaning that voluminous, even the word, meaning that your weight could be up, but you're actually in a deficit. So again, it's just being careful not to look at the readings thinking that you're doing something wrong. Again, I know 100% I'm ticking boxes and I'm actually losing body fat at a quick rate at the moment. I'm a little bit hungry, which is a good sign because it shows me that I'm actually in the deficit. But also, I know my targets and I know I'm actually doing things very accurately. I'm accounting for everything. And my expenditure is really high as well. And I'm doing the gym. And like there's so much going on that I know that I'm doing the right things. But there's so many other factors that can play into weight. And I know I've mentioned this every week, but it's important to keep mentioning it because you will see over the 8 weeks that like my weight's either going to be gone down a good bit, or even if it hasn't, because sometimes for me, just because I'm already relatively lean, my weight mightn't go down an awful lot, but my body composition will drastically change. And we'll talk about that as we get kind of towards the later weeks of the 8 week diet. So there's a lot going on. Even my ankle being swollen. Think about that, right? My ankle being swollen, my body's like natural reaction is going to be to inflame, drag water into the cells, trying to recover it, right? So even that alone could hike my weight, just the stress on the body, as well as all the exercise I'm doing as well. You think more exercise means weight can go faster, but sometimes more exercise can mean your body holds on to weight, water, not body fat. Remember, like if you're doing more exercise, you're probably burning more body fat. But in the short term, your weight might seem like it's actually peaked a little bit. Okay, so let's move on, right? So this is where the weight is. Look, it's still trending down. I know it's fine, and by the end of this week, it's probably going to be at a new low average. So we'll see how that progresses, and I keep talking through that every week because I think most people are most interested in that side of things. So just quickly, I just want to get onto some progress pictures. This is an interesting one, right? So I talked about the messy middle already, right? The progress picture. So this is week 1 to week 3 now. Okay. Now you might look at them and say, there isn't a drastic change. If anything, I just look a small bit smaller here and the body fat isn't drastically changed. Now, to the trained eye, because I've done this a long time, I can see a good bit of change. Like I can see like leanness coming in around the abs. I can see leanness coming in around the shoulders. Even the stomach area here is just less bloated, and you can see this coming in a small bit. It's not drastic, but I wouldn't expect it to be drastic. It's been 3 weeks. But this is something we have to be careful of again, right? When you feel, because I feel lighter, I can feel it myself. I can feel it in my clothes. I can feel it just like, I can just feel it. You know yourself. But sometimes we might look at the pictures and think, geez, there's not a drastic change. I thought there would be. If anything, I look kind of the same body fat wise. I just look a bit smaller. This is where you got to be careful and you've got to trust in what you're doing. When you start dieting, especially when your weight drops off, right? As I said before, a lot of our initial weight will be water weight, right? So when you lose water, you haven't lost that much body fat, but you've lost a lot of water. So your frame could actually feel smaller, you could feel less bloated, but you may not be any leaner. So for females, this is probably isn't a bad thing. You might be thinking, oh, I actually like that feeling. But for males, sometimes we like kind of feeling full and big. So we want the ideal for a male is to be lean and toned, but also feel like strong and feel kind of full. But even for females, you'd often get this as well. Females, you don't want to lose your shape when you're like, you want to get toned, but you don't want to lose your athletic shape. And this is, I guess it's a new kind of trend. I wouldn't even say trend. It's a new way now for women that they want to feel shapely and athletic, which is amazing. I'm all for that. I think it's a great way to think about these things. But even for you, right, when you're dieting and start dieting first, you may feel like you've lost a load of muscle. You may feel like you're after losing loads of shape. But again, this is just at the start of your at a dieting phase because you've lost some water weight. That will come on pretty quickly again once you start eating a small bit more in terms of carbs and stuff. So again, separating water weight from actual body fat. Okay, so we just care about body fat changes within it. So this is where I call it the messy middle. This is where at the moment it's like it can be very demotivating, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this at the end, before we close it out, right? But sometimes you can get in your own head and think, geez, this isn't working, or it's not going fast enough, or is it actually worth it? I put in so much work, and will I ever look the way I want to look? Am I always going to look like this? And there's always going to be these thoughts. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that at the end because the mindset side of things is so important in terms of actual consistency with this. Before I do that, let's go through MyFitnessPal and some meals, right? So I've taken basically my Friday eating, which was the day of the cinema, which was a 2,700 calorie day. And then I've taken yesterday's meals as well, which was a 2,000 calorie day. Okay. So my breakfast from most days is roughly going to be the same, right? So you'll see on Friday, I just had 400 calories. This was literally this was cooked oats with protein powder with some blueberries inside it. So porridge, blueberries and protein powder mixed inside it. And then I had some Greek yogurt on some sugar-free jelly. And then I had some cereal sprinkled on top of that. That's always my go-to breakfast. Is there any magic with it? No, I like it. It's enjoyable, lots of protein, very filling. It's only 430 calories. So for me, it's a great food to eat. Sometimes if I was going for a higher calorie day, I would probably just increase the portion sizes of this, right? So increase the ingredients. So for oats, I might like on Saturday morning, I think I had like 80 grams of oats because I had the match on Saturday. So I had a big breakfast. So instead of changing your meals like drastically, you can just increase the portion sizes of them and have more if you're having a higher calorie day, especially if it's around sport, because you don't want to just eat rubbish just to hit your calories. Okay. So then for lunch, what I basically had was I had like a big salad, I had some soup, and then I had some bread and Philadelphia cheese as well. So again, a lot of this carbs on this were actually coming from the soup and the bread. And then I had the salad. Again, I didn't want to just drastically change my eating just because I was carb loading. I also knew that I was going to the cinema and I was going to have some popcorn, so I didn't want to be starving myself either. So it would have been easier for me to have 600 calories of kind of like high carb foods, which would be easy to eat. You can eat like a bowl of cereal, a big bowl of cereal, and it would give you that. But I'd be starving then going into the cinema, and then I'd be it'd make the diet so much harder. So I'm trying to balance the diet here with obviously carb loading and sport, but you got to be careful because hunger is always something that can catch you. So for dinner, I kept it very simple. It was basically, I had a good few potatoes, just again for carbs. I had a turkey burger, and then I had some broccoli and some sauce. Because we were going to the cinema, I just wanted something. I didn't want to be going to the cinema starving. So I had just a 600 calorie dinner and a lot of carbs. So 100 grams of carbs, mostly from potatoes. So 500 grams of potatoes there. Again, really good high carb food. That's filling as well. So then for the cinema, basically, I just went, I had a medium popcorn, which was 600 calories. 67 grams of carbs, and then there's 31 grams of fat. So this is why, again, not ideal. Like that's a lot of calories coming from fats. So there's 9 calories per 1 gram of fat. So if you multiply that out, 330 by 9 is 270 calories are coming from fats when it comes to popcorn. So it's not the most ideal one, similar to popcorn, but it's fine, and it's one to get you through. When I came home, then I actually just had some oats before bed for more carbs, and then I had a banana, grapes, and then that milk was just basically through my coffees throughout the day. So 2,700 calories. I had 400 grams nearly of carbs, 66 grams of fats, and then 150 grams of protein. Okay, so the majority of my food that day was coming from actual carbohydrates. Okay, so that's basically how I made the food. So that was my high carb day. What you'll see now, guys, when I move on to yesterday, Sunday. So I had 200 calories, so 700 calories less yesterday, right? So what you'll see is the breakfast was the exact same. I always have the same breakfast. So didn't even change much, right? So basically I had my oats again, and I had my sugar-free jelly with yogurt and with cereal on top of it. Then for lunch yesterday, we tried actually a new meal out. It was one that was trending on TikTok. So it was like a cottage cheese toasted on like sourdough bread, and then you had like an egg on top of it with some cheese as well. I actually have a picture of it here. I'm going to show you. So this was what it was basically. I had one of those. This was Karen's. So we had sourdough bread, we had the cottage cheese on top of it, and that was toasted on top of it. Then in the pan, you basically do a fried egg with spinach underneath it and cheese, and then you drizzle on top of it a sausage choice. So I had one of them basically. I didn't have two of them because it would just be a lot of calories. I wanted more volume yesterday, so I had one of these. So that accounted for this side of the MyFitnessPal here. So one of them, I think it came out to be, it wasn't too much. I think it was about 300 calories, maybe even a little bit less, 300 calories, like 60, 61, 20. So just over 300 calories for all that, which was pretty good. And then also wanted to kind of have more filling foods. I had a big salad, so I had loads of meat chopped up inside in like a mixed salad bag, and then I had like a nice sauce drizzled on top of it, just for high volume. And I actually quite enjoyed that salad as well. So my whole lunch yesterday came out to be about 600, just over 600 calories. A lot of protein, though, 61 grams of protein. Then for dinner, I'll show you this one again. So you might have seen this on my stories today. We had like a beef ramen, really, really nice. So loads of different vegetables inside, and like a chicken broth here, or beef broth, mixed with like chilies and just kind of spices. So it's kind of like a hot broth. And then on top of it, you had like your vegetables, your broccoli, you had the mushrooms, you had your carrots, cabbage, and then we had sweet corn and meat. So this is basically steak, like a really thin steak cut up and just basically cooked inside in a broth after. It was really nice. This whole thing, right? See these noodles here. So they're actually something we got yesterday. They were like tofu noodles. It were like 30 calories for the whole thing. Now you can't see much of them there. There's loads underneath it, but there was like 30 calories for the whole thing of noodles. It was crazy, and they actually held pretty well. So that was a real like calorie saver. Now you could have it with normal noodles. It would just add an extra 250 calories maybe onto the meal. But you'll see from my meal here, it was actually 330 calories for the whole thing, which was a very, very low. So these kind of spaghetti shaped noodles, it's tofu noodles, they're 30 calories. Usually, if you were having noodles, I think we had the same meal last week and it was like 270 calories for noodles. So it's worth it if you can find them. They're in some shops. But even if you had normal noodles, you would just compensate a little bit in other areas. What I love about the ramen is that it's very wholesome, very nice comfort food in the winter. But we also use chopsticks, so it like really slows down your eating, meaning that by the time you're finished, you're actually really full, as well as the broth and all the vegetables. Like it's a very filling meal. So if you're someone that struggles with hunger on a diet, meals like this are a game changer because it just really helps with taste is really nice, but then you also have the fullness from the meal itself and slowing down because you have to eat with the chopsticks if you can. Okay, so then we had snacks throughout the day as well. So I actually had some soup homemade soup that we made. It was only a small bit left, so I had like it was 130 calories. And the skim milk here you see is basically like I just add in the coffees I have throughout the day. So I had a coffee yesterday myself. I made it myself. So basically, I just added in 100 mils. It mightn't even have been that. If I have coffees out, I will like again estimate it, but it might be like 100 calories for the whole day. So that's how I kind of work it out. And then other than that, I had a couple of sweets. I had some Greek yogurt with some jelly and some Rice Krispies on top. I had an orange, and then I had two like small chocolate bars. So 560 calories. So you'll see my whole day of eating was under 2,000 calories. I had relatively low carb day compared to before, 244, relatively low fat day, 43, and then I had a higher protein day, which is nearly 170 grams of protein, which is a lot for a 2,000 calorie diet. Protein is filling. So the more protein you have, the more full you're going to be. I don't generally worry too much about the macronutrients unless you're someone who wants to focus on sport and balancing this out. Don't get too caught up in the macronutrients, so the carbs, fats, and the proteins. But it's definitely worth looking at your protein because it's good for your fullness. So the foods are generally more filling, which means it'll be more high quality. But it's also good for your protein recovery, or sorry, muscle recovery. So if you're in the gym and you want to kind of build muscle and actually recover well, protein is the number one macronutrient for doing that. So it's good to do that. So when you're losing body fat, you don't want to just lose. You can lose muscle as well. So you don't want to lose muscle because that's just going to make you look smaller, and you don't want to look smaller. You want to look athletic and toned. So high protein diets help maintain your muscle so that the majority of the calorie deficit is going to come from your body fat, if that makes sense. Okay, so that's that. Right. I'm gonna finally get on. I think I've covered everything I wanted to cover there. This was my medium popcorn from the cinema, and then I got a Coke Zero as well, which are just handy when you're on a diet just for fullness as well. A lot of people ask me, is it okay to eat or to drink a Coke Zero every day? Yes, 100%. It's been one of the most well-studied things. Artificial sweeteners are really well studied. People are trying to disprove this for years and years and years. So they're trying to do studies to disprove the fact that it's safe. But in the quantity that we eat them or drink them in this case, it's not a hazard to our body whatsoever. Okay, so you're much better off to have a Coke Zero and be like a healthy body weight than you are to drink loads of normal Coke and be at a heavier body weight in terms of your overall health. So they're not bad for you, and they're great if you want to, have something nice, but it's not going to ruin your calories. Right. So guys, that's basically everything I wanted to show you there. So I'm going to stop sharing this now. And we're just going to finish off this session, guys, just with the mindset side of it. So as I've talked about today, a lot of the things that come up during a diet can throw you in terms of your mindset. So if you I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Split, right? So when he says it was Patricia, so basically he's a schizophrenic who has loads of split personalities, right? And we all have a little bit of that. Don't want to admit it, but we all have a little bit of that, where we have a few different voices going on in our head, and there's some negative ones, there's some positive ones, and depending on the day, one of them is going to be more predominant than the other one. So what we're trying to do on the days where you have the negative thoughts, you have the days where it's telling you to give up, it's telling you that you're not making any progress, it's telling you it's too hard, it's telling you this and that. They're the days you really need to just trust in what you're doing. I always say to my clients, and I mentioned this a few times, facts over feelings. The reason we take so much data is for them days. The days where you feel like giving up, the days where you feel like it's not worth it, who cares? And the inner dialogue is quite negative. All we need to do in them days is get through it. This week for me, if you look at it, right, my weight stagnated. So it doesn't look great. My progress pictures weren't exciting me too much. Looking at them, I was like, oh, yeah. I'm feeling a bit blah. I'm like not hugely motivated after the week. It's fine. Then I got the injury as well on top of it, which is just kind of like, oh God, another kind of thing to add to it. So there's so many kind of different things. Now, I wouldn't say I'm extremely demotivated today, or that I feel like sabotaging it, but I've had days throughout the last 3 weeks where I was buzzing, where I'm like, oh, this is deadly. I can't wait to see the progress and everything. But you're going to have lots of days where you don't feel like that as well. And on them days, it's just a case of, well, how can I just tick the box as best I can? Close enough is good enough right now. Keep it simple, do the simple stuff, and just move on to the next step. Okay, you don't have to wish away your life, because if you're doing this right, you shouldn't be wishing away your life. It should be actually enjoyable. The food you're eating, see the foods I'm eating, I'm liking them. I've had popcorn, I've had meals out, I've had nice meals that we've made ourselves. Like it hasn't been hard. The hunger's been a small bit, but it's almost a positive hunger where I look forward to meals. So your mindset is huge on this. There's going to be so much doubt, and I mentioned this last week. This is my main role as a coach, is to help people during these moments where you need someone who knows what they're talking about, who's been through it. I've been through this so many times. So that's why I can do this for myself. I know that if whenever I doubt the weight, I'm like, no, just wait. It's fine. You're progressing. You're in a calorie deficit. It's going to work. I know that I just need to ride that out and just keep doing what I'm doing. I've lost just as much body fat in the last week as I've lost the other 2 weeks, even though on the scales it looks like I haven't. But I know underneath the hood I have, because I've been doing what I've needed to do. And this is what I do for my clients, is I'm basically just helping them to know, okay, are you doing what you need to do right now? And if the answer to that is yes, then just we got to keep going. And a major thing I wanted to say before I close this out, even if you're not doing what you need to be doing perfectly, generally it's going to be a small tweak or change you need. And this is where a lot of people get it wrong. It's like they think if they're not progressing at a good rate, or if things don't seem to be clicking, it's like, I need to drastically change something. It's not working. It's like, no, you're probably doing a lot of things right, but maybe some of the things that, some of the important things you just need to tweak a little bit. Maybe you're overeating a little bit more than you think you are. Maybe you're picking more than you think you are. Maybe you're eating more calories than you think you are. Okay, so that's a case of, we just need to tighten it up a little bit and be more aware. Excuse me, be a little bit more aware of your actual calorie intake. So that way, then it's like, I don't have to drastically change anything. I don't have to change my diet, my foods. I don't have to change anything too major, but I do need to kind of tighten something up. It might be the weekend, it might be one day in a week, might be just a little bit loose, and it might be slowing you down a bit. So maybe you need to tighten that up, but it's not drastic. It's just tighten it up. So just little things like that will make a huge difference, right? Last point, and I'm going to close here. Allow yourself space when you're feeling a little bit negative, or you're feeling like sabotaging. Sabotaging is the biggest thing, and we all do it, and we all justify it. It's like, I nearly threw in the towel. I hear this nearly every week from every client. It's like, oh, I felt like throwing the towel. I felt like giving up. And it's only when you challenge them, it's like, what good would that have done you? They start to think, yeah, it's just an old habit I have. It's just the way I think about this stuff. It's throwing in the towel. It's like, why throw in the towel? Even if things weren't going right, and even if you were slipping, should you not be looking at improving as opposed to throwing the towel? What's throwing in the towel going to get you? What it's going to get you is a short-term relief, because you're going to put down the goals. It's going to feel like a weight off your shoulders for a little bit, but then in a couple of weeks and months, you're going to be back thinking, oh, I need to start something again. The pain of staying the same outweighs the pain of change. But then you get into the process. You have to battle through them moments, because that's what's going to change it. The only difference between people that succeed and people that don't is the people that succeed are able to ride out them challenging times and just not sabotage. Keep doing the simple things well and not sabotage. Because this isn't about doing drastic stuff. It's about simple, consistent things. As humans, we don't do that well. We don't do discipline well. We don't do the basic things well. We love extremes, but we struggle with, discipline and habits. Simple things done well. Guys, I'm going to shut that there. Hope you enjoyed the video and the podcast. As always, please subscribe to the video or to my YouTube channel if you're new here. Leave a comment underneath if you have any questions or any thoughts on this. Like the video. And anyone listening back in the podcast, same thing. Just subscribe to the podcast and give me a review. That would be fantastic. And it would just really, really help me grow. Guys, have a fantastic week. Chat soon.